I am one who tends to lean into some uncomfortable conversations because that's where we experience the greatest growth. And I know as a kid growing up, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about sex, and you don't talk about money, religion with other people. But there was an Intuit survey that Gen Z would rather talk about their sexual experiences than finances. Why is this, and what's creating the stigma about money? Like, and that's why I appreciate this conversation, because I know with what you're trying to do, Katrin, is break this taboo. But why is there a taboo to begin with, do you think, in the first place?
Yeah, I would say like a big part of taboo comes from, again, comparison, right? And like shame, like, am I worse than others? And a huge part here becomes because people don't know what's the baseline of normal, right? Like as a college student, you don't know if it's normal that your card gets declined every once in a while because you don't have enough money on it, right? Or you don't know if it's normal that you haven't started building your credit score yet. So I would say first key thing is that people don't know what's the average, right? So you don't even know how to benchmark yourself. Versus if you take fitness, for example, which is a topic that used to be taboo but no longer is, it's very open and like honest to speak about how much weight you lost or how often you're working out or what's your like, nutrition, right? Like right now, and it's very normal to post that on social media as well. And so that's something similar we're doing with Frich to make sure that money is the next big topic where everyone starts to feel comfortable to talk about it. And one of the ways where we have opened up that conversation is first anonymizing things. So our users, whenever they want to know how are they comparing to others, they need to submit their answer, and then they will see how do they compare to others in their cohort. Let's say if you're an NYU graduate, you just graduate, and you wonder like, do you have your life together right now or not? You can just respond to a couple of questions and see anonymously how do you compare to your cohort. So you don't have to go through that very like shameful experience of seeing if you are below others. And what users often, end up figuring out is that they are not that much worse than their peers. It's more about the fear of like unknowing that really, really scares them. And
Yeah.
that same fear often holds them back from using financial institutions' products as well, because they think that they're doing so badly that they don't even deserve to use them. Like they're afraid of taking the first step because money and finances feel very, very intimidating for them. So I would say for any financial institution listening to this right now, like making sure you don't intimidate your users and you make feel that like no matter where your financial literacy is right now, you can get started at any point is a really, really crucial step.
That's I really appreciate this conversation. I just pulled up another research report. This is from reported on Fast Company. Half of Gen Z has lied about how much they make, and it's the unknown. It's like, where do I rank? How do I compare with my peers? And that's one of the reasons I appreciate how Frich's position on the homepage. You have on your website. I see the text: no filters, no fakeness, just the raw truth about your. And then you crossed out your everyone's money, just the raw truth about everyone's money. And this is also in line with some other research. 69% of Gen Z say they wish people were more open about personal finances. I think of some recent conversations we've had in some of our own cohorts to where I'm facilitating financial brand leaders sharing their money story, sharing their money truth, sharing their money script with each other. Because I think if we can start facilitating this dialogue within organizations, it's easier than to open up and invite other people externally to the conversation. And for the organizations that have leaned into that uncomfortable conversation, it's amazing at what happens, because it's like, levels of resistance decrease, trust increases, and then we're really able to start helping guide people beyond pains in the present moment. Elizabeth, why is this the case? Why do you think it's so challenging for financial brand leaders to facilitate this money conversation, maybe first and foremost internally, and yet alone even externally? What's your take on that?
I mean, I think the way, one of the themes of this conversation has just been communication. Like, I think the way that Gen Z communicates is so radically different than what financial institution leadership is used to in serving their kind of previous demographics. And I think there's such a huge opportunity here, particularly again with the credit union community that we're working with, because I think probably the stereotype among Gen Z, if they're even aware of credit unions, is like, that's something that my grandparents used. It's kind of an old-fashioned financial institution. But if you were to describe a credit union to somebody from Gen Z, it's so aligned with kind of the value system of I think this generation, which is
purpose-driven.
These are nonprofit
Yep.
financial institutions. They're very mission oriented. They're often, very steeped in the communities that they're serving. So you talked earlier about kind of trust and local, like community banks and credit unions are local institutions, really. Like they exist to serve kind of their local population, with non-predatory products that are trying to focus on financial wellness. And so I think there's an opportunity for collaboration between, companies like Frich and credit unions and community banks. And it's just about Frich helping financial institutions better communicate and learn to speak the language of Gen Z, because there is this alignment opportunity that's just, it hasn't been highlighted to date, but we think that it's a huge opportunity going forward.
Well, I want to dive deeper into this opportunity here because, when we look ahead towards the future, Gen Z is feeling pretty pessimistic about their financial future. Coming back to this Intuit study, they found that 3 out of 4 in the Gen Z community, and I like the way that, Elizabeth, you reference community, because I think community is key to facilitating a dialogue and discussion here. But 3 out of 4 in the Gen Z community say the current economy makes them hesitant to even set up these long-term goals. Katrin, I want to come back to something that you mentioned before. Why does making money social matter so much, but particularly right now, probably more than ever before?
Yeah, I would say it matters the most so people, again, know what's the baseline, like what is normal, and they even feel the courage to start working on their personal finance situation. Like, again, whether it's starting to build their credit, starting to invest, like finding the right banking products. A huge thing that what happens, especially for the Gen Z user right now, is the moment you're graduating from university, like you're the most attractive for financial institutions, right? Because you're right now signing up for products that you're going to use probably for a lifetime. And that at that moment, users are extremely overwhelmed because they're graduating, they're trying to find a new job, they're trying to figure out what does it mean to rent an apartment, how to set up 401k, what type of products to use. And it's really like a matter of a couple of months when they have to figure out all those huge decisions for a lifetime. And they don't have anyone to turn to because, again, financial institutions, they feel like they don't speak the same language. Influencers are just sponsored and they don't speak the truth. They feel embarrassed at that point to ask their parents because they often feel they're old enough that they should already know, and their friends might be equally clueless. So that kind of leaves them very lost and confused, and they generally don't have anywhere to turn to. And I always like to bring the parallel with the fitness industry. There's so many groups and communities for people training for a marathon or like going to yoga, but there's nothing like that for personal finances. And we spend the majority of our lives working to make money, and then we are not told what to do with that. So I would say having a safe and open community where people can have access to what's the truth, like what's the norm of what you're supposed to be doing with your money, whether it's anonymous or not. I think just having a place where you can benchmark yourself is extremely important, because otherwise most young people like worry about money. If I'm not wrong, I think it was 7 times a day. People are anxious about money, but they almost never take any action. They're just worrying about it, but they don't even know where to get started.
Absolutely.
They don't know what's normal. And that's why we have to build a financial community to make sure that people have that open and honest place where they can go and feel confident about their personal finances.
Very much so. And then when you think about like, the connection between health and fitness and health and finances, there's such a strong correlation that financial stress takes a toll on people's physical well-being, their mental well-being. Even a study from Stash found that about 1 out of every 3 people are losing sleep because of financial stress. 1 out of every 3 people are too embarrassed to discuss these financial matters because they think that they're worse off than their peers, which is exactly the problems that you're addressing. At Frich,